So do you really have a 23-point manifesto?
Brad, if I didn't have a 23-point manifesto, could I do this?
No, you couldn't. So the fact that you have it tells me it's important. And so I think we should hit on some of those.
Welcome to Fish Biz, the business of fishing podcast, where you're going to gain knowledge and insight that's going to help you grow your business in the recreational sport fishing industry. Keith Allen and Brad Nickel from Mark 5 Strategies, and we have been embarked on a series on trade show strategies. Last week, Ken Duke, managing editor from Fishing Tackle Retailer, joined the conversation, and we discussed winning strategies for the new product showcase at ICAST. And today, we continue our conversation with Ken Duke as he rolls out his 23-point trade show manifesto, or what Brad and I like to call 23 commandments for trade show success. Even if you have your trade show plan completely mapped out for ICAST, you're going to gain valuable knowledge and insight from this episode. I will warn you, there's some mild profanity, but I guarantee you, you're going to find some value in the conversation. And if you can cross these 23 things off your trade show checklist, you're going to have a successful event. So let's dive into it. Fish Biz, Episode 6, 23 Commandments for Trade Show Success with Managing Editor of Fishing Tackle Retailer, Ken Duke. Let's talk, trade shows in general, lots of do's and quite a few don'ts to really maximize the opportunity.
Yeah, and guys, I do have a 23-point. I call it a manifesto just because I thought that would make you pay attention. But
it works.
I got to thinking about it after I spoke with Keith the other day, and I said, there is so many things that go into having a good trade show experience. And I started writing them down, and by the time I was done, it was a list 23 items long. And let me kick it off here. Before your trade show, you got to have a plan, and you have to set a schedule. You can't just show up and hope for the best. That's going to absolutely doom you to failure. Think about things like, who do you want to see? Who do you want to meet? Vet your customers in advance. If you know who's going to be there and you know they're going to be potentially buying from you, what can you find out about them? Are they really good customers who pay on time and things like that? You might be able to work with your distributors to get an answer to some of those questions. Get an attendee list. ASA makes a list of attendees available in advance of the show if you're an ASA member. And getting a list like that can be really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick on that one. Don't just think about customers, think about partners, right? Can your product be packaged with a potential partner? Is there another manufacturer who you want to make sure you meet with that has a similar customer base and you could do co-marketing or co-packaging together? So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And that's a great tip, Brad. That is a wonderful tip. People don't look for allies enough in this industry. We tend to look at the other people in our space, whether they're media people, like in my case, or whether they're manufacturers in the case of a lot of your audience. There are some strategic partners out there if you just look. There are people you can trust. There are people you can work with. There are people who can help you. Another thing that I find people going to ICAST or other trade shows don't do is they don't start early enough. There are a lot of things you can be doing now, or you could have been doing a month ago or even earlier to get ready. One of those is start making appointments. You have certain key people that you need to talk to at this show. If you don't have an appointment with them, you better make one right away, because things get crazy at ICAST. There are going to be 15,000 people there putting demands on everybody's time and so forth. Think about other things you can do other than just be on the show floor. Do you want to participate with the on the water experience? Do you want to have a boat fishing in the ICAST Cup that's done by FLW? Do you want to enter the new product showcase? These are all things that should have been decided months in advance so that you can get that process gearing up.
Excellent.
Number 4 on Ken's trade show manifesto is staff up. There's power in numbers. You don't have to be the lone wolf out there. And I realize budget considerations and things like that are critical. But, with more people out there, you can see and you can do more. And one of the things I find that people don't take into account enough is they're going to bring 5 people to ICAST, and they're going to be working the booth and something like that. And a couple of them are really good at it. And then there's one guy who has the social skills of a lynch mob. And he just shouldn't be there. Come on, people.
You're so right.
This is a trade show. If these people don't have some game and can't handle working with other people, you can leave them back in Iowa or California or Georgia or wherever it is you're from, or let them wander the aisles and bring back some information about what else is going on out there. But let people play to their strengths. And I love this. This happens every year. You guys have seen it so many times. You walk into somebody's booth at ICAST and they sort of shuffle over to you with their hands in their pockets and they say something like, "Can I help you?" I mean, dude, this show happens once a year.
Yeah.
And that's what you got.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta be able to do better than that. You gotta have a plan. What are you gonna say when people come into
practice your pitch?
Have a pitch.
Yeah.
Have a plan. Have an agenda. If you're lucky enough to get somebody to stop by your booth, you better have something to say to them.
That's right.
You don't, shame on you.
Yeah. And if your product is complex or different, be prepared to know how you're going to demonstrate it, right? We ran into that with Trapper last year. It looks unique, and people say, "Wow, what does that do?" Well, you need to be able to show them what you do, and Keith was a master at that last year.
You have to, with everybody that comes in, it's literally like time is the enemy at ICAST, right?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
So you got to get them as quick as you can, and it's an elevator pitch to each person. And if they're interested beyond that, then you go deeper, right? And you see where you're taking it. But you cannot waste the opportunities. You cannot let them get by you.
Go ahead. Sorry, Ken.
I was just going to say, Brad, that not everybody has Keith Allen skills for speaking and for coming up with a good pitch and for knowing what to say and for identifying who he's dealing with. But you know what? You've got people in your company who are somewhere on that continuum of Keith Allen versus rock in a corner, and you need to be bringing the people who are closer to the Keith Allen end of things.
Listen, if you know your product, all right, if you're a founder, if it's your company and you've built it, and I'm talking about the small independent guys. The bigger companies, obviously they have a team and they've dialed this in. If this is your deal, right? This is your product. If this is your product, you have all the heart and soul and knowledge and passion about it, more so than anybody else. Now is the time for you to spray it. You got to get it out there. You can't be timid. "Hey, man, have you seen this?" You got to go, have you seen this? Check this thing out. It is the new deal. And let me show you why. Boom. And you got 20 seconds.
And don't forget, you've got 5 or 6 or 10 Joe's Tackle Shops around the corner from your house. Go pitch every single one of those owners and managers and salespeople your product before you hit ICAST. Make that pitch work.
Right, that's a genius tip. I had not even really considered that, but you can sort of take your show on the road, almost like a comedian testing material, by going to those local tackle shops and seeing what it is that resonates with those folks. Those guys are your audience ultimately, and if you can make it appeal to them, you have a much better chance at ICAST.
Yep.
One of the things that we've all discussed before, but a lot of people may not really be aware of out there in your audience, is the transition of ICAST in, let's say, the last 10 or 12 years. Before that, ICAST I would have called a business show or a kind of an order-taking show where a lot of stuff got bought and sold. You're taking a lot of orders on the floor and stuff like that. But about 10 or 12 years ago, when the fishing industry really got hot and heavy on the internet and everybody realized that they could have their own website and videos, and all you needed was a GoPro on a stick, that ICAST sort of started transitioning and becoming more of a media show. And I think that trend has kind of stabilized in the last, let's say, 4 years or so. But ICAST is every bit as much a media show now as it is a buyer show. And I don't see enough exhibitors understanding that and really putting that into play. They may understand it intellectually, but what I find is that they will ditch a small retailer to talk to some guy with a GoPro on a stick. Massive mistake. Yeah. Massive mistake. And I think that if you have enough staff on site, you can sort of divide up responsibilities. You can say, okay, you guys understand how to work with media. Here are some flash drives with high-res images, press releases, all the things the media needs. I want these guys over here who are better at working with retail to be prepared to talk with the buyers, and sort of divide up your staff based on their skill set. Make sure people know what to do. Mix it up if everybody's pretty good with both sides of it. But it's so frustrating for a media person to wait behind retail people if he only needs a flash drive. And it's so frustrating for retailers to wait behind media people when they want to do actual business.
That's right. No, that's a great point. And understanding who to prioritize is really critical.
And we discussed a lot of that in a previous episode. I think it was the first one in the series on trade show strategy. So we encourage you to go back and listen to that. And we discussed that very point, Ken, where you listen. There's a lot of value in all of the media people that are going to come to see you, from the big publications like Bassmaster and FTR and Field and Stream and all the majors, as well as the little independent website guys, right? Everybody that's going to give you exposure is of value to you, but
no, just FTR, basically just FTR. Keith.
I knew that was coming. As soon as Keith said FTR, I knew it. When we were going back, I was like, I can't believe Keith just lumped FTR in with everybody else.
They're in trouble now. There's not. There's no time though where you're going to sacrifice a sale. Right. No. For that media opportunity, because media opportunity is always going to be there and you can go back and get it. And having somebody whose job is to field that so that you don't have to sacrifice any sales is a great suggestion. And having your media materials on a thumb drive so that you can just hand it off, and it has the pictures, it's got videos, it's got even content, so that they could technically just take your press releases and have your images, and boom, they can have the release up and their story up in 15 minutes, or there's enough content for them to generate their own original story out of the materials that you give them.
Exactly right. And this is where your pro staff comes in. If you have a pro staff angler, this is why you want him in the booth. This is why you want his pockets full of flash drives with high-res images and press releases. This is the guy you want in front of the camera doing the interviews, so you can take orders. Let the pro staffer do his job. So many people use pro staffers as billboards, and it's all about where your logo is. That is about the worst use of a pro staffer that I can imagine. Your pro staffer is your conduit. He is your access to these media people. And if you're using him for anything less than that, you are throwing your money in the street.
Excellent point.
Guys, we all know pro staff anglers out there whose idea of working for a sponsor is walking to the mailbox and seeing if his check arrived. This is where you put them to work and you find out how good they are, right here.
Yeah. And coach them through your pitch just like you would any other staff member, right?
Absolutely.
Make sure they understand it. That's great. That's a great tip.
And know that these pro staffers, they run the gamut from Kevin Van Dam, who is not only the best on the water, but the best off the water too, to guy with a tournament jersey. And guy with a tournament jersey who can't talk and doesn't know the points about your bait and can't pronounce the names of your products very well, he should not be at the show. He really should.
Right.
I don't care if he is your brother-in-law. Don't bring it.
Where are we on the list?
Oh my gosh, let's see, guys. We're only through number 4.
Well, let's motor it. Well, we'll make it available for people to download too.
Absolutely. But number 5 is be creative. Have an inviting booth space. I can't tell you how many times we've all walked through the ICAST show. The only signage is down in front of the table that's in the booth. I can't see that. There are 40 people around me. I can't see what's down there. Get your exhibit up high. Make it open to the extent that you possibly can. Don't put a table or a chair between me and you. Make me want to come in and check things out. Get your signage way up there. Have some social skills. Use them or stay at home. We don't need them. We don't have the social skills. ICAST can be crowded. Create a competition. American Tackle Company a few years ago did a cool thing. They had a nice space right in front of the main entrance at ICAST, and they set up their own flipping and pitching contest right there on the floor.
Nice.
And last year they got some real traction with it. They had a lot of big-time FLW and Bassmaster Elite Series pros competing. They gave away a trophy for whoever could pitch like in that cornhole style game. And crowds draw crowds. If you can find a way to get some activity generated in front of your booth, you're going to be much more successful. And this is another reason you want to have power in numbers. You have multiple people in your booth is you want to walk around and see what other people are doing. You want to see what American Tackle is doing. You want to see what everybody on the floor is doing so that you can take the best of it and do it next time.
That's a great point. And we talk about that a lot. Check out your competition or non-competition and see how they're getting people in. And if you can't get people in standing in front of your booth, just hire them. I'm kidding.
And with that in mind, Ken, over the decades that you've been covering these events,
I'm just old.
Is there? I know he shaves his head, so you see no gray hair.
There you go.
Is there anything that really stands out to you that you're like, oh my God, that's a must? That's the coolest, or that's the best thing I've ever seen anybody do at a show like this?
I'm afraid to say I get pretty jaded through the years. I thought the American Tackle thing, which was set up by a young man who's very talented named Ben Stein at American Tackle, I thought that was really good. It brought people from a variety of companies over there. And when's the last time you saw a competitor stand in a booth engaged in a competition? Well, that doesn't happen, but they made it happen. That was impressive. Some companies have social hours where they offer alcohol or food, and I don't know. That doesn't do much for me. You see a lot of scantily clad, attractive young women in booths, but I don't think that really draws in the buyers and so forth that you're looking for. Yeah, I think that can even be intimidating.
Yeah.
So that I don't think that's necessarily a good play. But I think sometimes having an angler who's really had a lot of success lately as a pro staffer, that'll work for you. Winning best of show never hurts. Having something that's generated and been in the news recently, that's going to be good. So set up your media push right before iCast. Those are all the key things you're going to do to generate an audience.
Besides American, any guys who just consistently year after year hit it out of the park for you and you say, wow, they're just hitting every metric on the trade show promotion?
Well, a lot of the bigger companies are really good at it. A lot of the bigger companies are really solid. You've got Humminbird that always does a great job. PowerPole does a fine job out there. They've got lots of displays with working products. And when you think about the tough products to show at work, my gosh, it's the big electronic stuff. It's things like the shallow water anchors. Those are a challenge. I mean, Coda does a good job with that. A lot of the electronics companies are really solid. The Garmin's, lots of good displays showing you off the latest and greatest of things they're doing. Pure Fishing is strong. They've got a tank up there. They bring a outstanding pro staff to the table that's doing demos and stuff like that.
How about the smaller guys who don't have that kind of budget and those kinds of resources?
The smaller guys who don't have the budget, don't have the resources, need to create the buzz. And that's something that Trapper Tackle did such a great job with last year. People were talking about Trapper Tackle before they got to the show. And that was because you guys did such a good advanced promotion effort. Occasionally you'll get somebody who's created a buzz with a new bait. Maybe it's won a tournament, which is such luck to make that happen. But they've had some success on the tournament trail maybe, or a giant fish was caught or something like that. And that becomes a big deal. It's tough, but those are some of the things we want to talk about. One of the things I think everybody needs to do is be really proactive when they're on the floor. That's one of the things that's always bothered me about people at the show, and that is that they feel like the little confines of their booth is where they have to stand, and that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
The aisle is not a demilitarized zone. You don't have people out there in that aisle pulling in media, pulling in potential buyers. You're wasting that space. And one of the guys, it's a big company with a lot of impressive products, but these guys impress me every year. TTI Blakemore. TTI Blakemore always has both sides of the aisle. They got both sides of the aisle. So they command not just their technical booth space on either side, but they command the river running through it.
That's great.
And that's huge. And I don't know why more people who have, if 10 by 10 is the standard booth size there, why guys don't get two 10 by 10s and make them opposite each other, and then just command the whole middle. Because
I like
that's a great play.
That's a great tip. I've never even thought of that before, and I've been to 1,000 trade shows. That's brilliant.
You see too many people just want to stay in their booth. They feel like they're a coach on the sideline. If they get out of the coaching box, there's going to be a technical or something. And
and I think
somebody's going to shoot a free throw.
I think the thing is for startups, for new companies, it's intimidating if you've never done this before. You think the big guys have it all down, but you'll see the same mistakes being made by big guys with people hanging out in the booth, chatting with each other and not getting out there and getting people into the booth. If you're a startup, you better be hungry and you better be willing to get over your shyness or your fear of embarrassment or whatever else it is. You're selling, and today, everyone in that booth is a salesperson, and your business is future critical and depends on it. And you're not going anywhere if you don't sell. So get out of it. You're right. That's great, Ken.
Brad, you need to take what you just said, turn it into a soundbite, and send it to everybody in the tackle industry. Everybody's a salesman. That is so true. And if they're not, then they're a failure waiting to happen, because there's so much competition out there. It's so demanding now. It's more challenging perhaps than ever. And you got to get out there. You got to sell.
What I tell startup founders who say, I'm not a salesman. I can't be a salesman. I don't know anything about sales. Let me tell you something. You're selling every day to your wife. You're selling every day to your kids. You're convincing and persuading to your boss in your day gig, whatever it is. You're a salesperson. Every human being on the planet has to sell and persuade every day. Remember it. Have confidence in yourself. It's your product. Believe in it.
And, we talk about using both sides and using that aisle and so forth. And I think that is a great way to do. I think that is genius. Yeah. And basically the only people I see doing that are guys at TTI Blakemore. But just because you have a lousy booth spot, let's say you're new and so you're low on the pecking order and you're stuck in some corner that's further away than the parking lot, there's still things you can do to generate a good crowd there. First, if your booth position is lousy, that means your booth display needs to overcompensate for that. And you got to make sure people know where you are. A few years ago, I was talking to a pro angler, and I said, well, where are you going to be later? I got to run now. Where are you going to be later? He said, I'm going to be in the booth. And I said, oh, okay, where's that? And he said, we're standing in it. I couldn't even, this is a big, big company that we were standing in their booth. I had no idea their signage was that bad.
Oh my gosh.
Their display was that barren. And we were standing in their booth, and one of their guys overheard me say that. And, so not my finest moment, but,
well, it's a coaching moment for them.
Yeah, in retrospect, I hope it was kind of a coaching moment for them. But if we start listing not my finest moments, we just don't have time for that.
We could. You and I collectively could probably do a 10-part series on that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes. And some of them would be the same moment where we both found a way to in conjunction. So, but if you got a lousy booth space, get somebody out by the door, handing out flash drives, handing out little pamphlets, tell them about what's going on in your booth. Tell them about a contest you're doing, a giveaway you have, a promotion you're running. Tell them that Bill Dance or Kevin Van Dam, Jimmy Houston, Aaron Martins is going to be in your booth at X o'clock. Get out there where the people are and find a way to get them to your place. If you run into somebody who's super important to you, maybe a huge buyer with a bunch of retail outlets or a critically important media person, well, physically drag them to your booth.
Yeah.
If these guys they have stuff they have to do, but unless there's an appointment they have to do right then, quite often you can get them to move with you and to go where you need them to be. So I don't see people being proactive enough like that.
Yeah.
And that bothers me. Another thing that I think people get into a rut. They have a plan. They say, okay, my booth is going to look like this. My booth is in this location. Here's the people I'm bringing with me. Here's what we're going to wear. And they get so focused on that they forget that they need also to adapt. ICAST on some level is a game to be played.
Listen, in one aspect we say make a plan and stick to the plan, but part of the plan always needs to be remain flexible and adaptable to the situation.
Yep.
Absolutely. If you're up by 30 points in the Super Bowl, run the ball a couple of times, Falcons. Don't let New England, don't let New England just continue to cruise down the field and score. The same is true at ICAST. If things didn't work well in the morning, you better find a way to change things around in the afternoon. And maybe it involves being more aggressive. Maybe it involves getting somebody out of the door with some flash drives. Maybe it involves a promotion that you hadn't planned on doing. Maybe it involves finding that strategic partnership that we were talking about earlier. But you better adapt because the clock is ticking, time is limited, and you don't want this thing to be a failure.
Right. And
don't be sitting in the – go ahead, Keith.
I was going to say, and if you did bring a team with you, then it's important to kind of debrief at the end of the day and say, okay, what was good, what wasn't good, what needs improvement.
Good point.
How are we going to approach this tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that absolutely, but I would say that rather than wait until the evening, I'd do it at noon. If it ain't working by noon, it's time to change things up. That gives you a lot more time to come up with a new game plan and see if something will work.
Yep. Hey, there's a Kinko's in the convention center, so anything you come up with, you can get printed and dealt with and done. It's going to cost you some cash, but you can make changes, do another promotion, whatever it is. I mean, there's always an opportunity to play. That's great.
You sure can. And there's also a media center at ICAST, and you can go over to the media center and see who's hanging out. Sometimes you'll see some key media players hanging out there, and they're typing up some story that they've got to get on the web or something like that. But you know what? They might just be available to you to come over to the booth right after, or maybe you can have lunch with them on the show floor or something like that. And if you don't adapt and if you don't make changes, you're gonna see the failure of Wednesday morning turn into the failure of Thursday and Friday.
Right.
And you can't let that happen.
And that's the guys driving home or getting on the plane saying the show sucked this year. The show didn't suck. The buyers were there. You just didn't adapt to make it work.
And key point, the buyers are there, the media are there, and you want to listen, you need to work all angles of this show. And just like Kenny alluded to, if you're in the back, listen, you can make all the excuses in the world that you want, right? Show sucked. It was just a terrible position. There's no reason you can't go and grab some media folks. There's no reason you can't get the attention of some people. And if you're not selling, listen, it's understandable. Some people have a hard time selling at these shows. If you're not selling, you better be working the media angle because there is huge value in getting that kind of exposure. If you can get Ken Duke from Fishing Tackle Retailer to come to your booth and write a story, that can be huge because every retail, 99% of the retailers in the country subscribe to Fishing Tackle Retailer. When you get exposure in that magazine, everybody you want buying your product is seeing it.
Well, absolutely. That's exactly right. You know what? When you're talking about ICAST, you're talking about the biggest trade show in our industry in the whole world. You're talking about all the key media people. You're talking about all the key buyers. If you had a bad show, guess what? It's not their fault.
That's right.
It's not ICAST's fault. It's not ASA's fault. There is someone you can blame, though. And we know who it is if people will
That's
step up
right.
and do it. We know exactly whose fault it was. So that's easy. And just going through all these tips, it's fun for me because we've all seen all the mistakes get made. And this is kind of one of my favorites. And I tell people this occasionally when they make the mistake of asking me, oh, what can I do better? This one I just call the booth is your kingdom. Your booth is your world. Usually they'll look pretty good when the show opens on Wednesday morning. By Friday morning, some of them look like a war zone.
Yeah.
Now the convention center people will take care of vacuuming and stuff like that, but the displays are a mess and everything has gone haywire in there. Your booth's your kingdom, man. Maintain it. Make it look good. It should look every bit as good on Friday as it did on Wednesday. And there's no excuse for it not to.
And that continues through the day. That's not end of the day cleanup. That's keep it tidy through the day, right? And if you have to stop things down for 5 minutes and reorganize, then do it because it's much more when your stuff is scattered everywhere, it's tough, man. Nobody wants to look at that and you're not getting
critical planning. Have a place for the crap. Have a place for your bags, your laptop bags, whatever that's not visible, that's under a table, whatever it is. Have a place for the crap because it's going to drive you nuts the entire 3 days.
Yeah, get a trash can in there if you need one. Tuck it away somewhere. Have a couple of bowls of mints. Those draw people like crazy at ICAST. Yep. I think if you don't have some scantily clad model or a top bass pro, get a bowl of mints, for God's sake. People will come to that.
People will do anything to manage their halitosis.
Yes, they will. I'm one of those people. But, we talked about the booth being the kingdom. Another thing that I think is underserved or not done well enough or not enough attention is paid to it is, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. As I'm in my 50s, I know I can't do as much over the course of a day without it really hitting me hard as I could 25 years ago. Eat right when you're there. Don't just go out to these crazy dinners where everything is fried and has tons of oil in it and it's so heavy and you feel like all you want to do is sleep for a week, and get some rest at night, because it only runs for 4 days, but this is a long show with a lot of demands, and people who don't take care of themselves and don't look right are not going to be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and listen, there are a lot of social opportunities at ICAST, and it's a great networking event. And listen, we all like to attend those events, which is great. Not saying you shouldn't, but you need to manage yourself. Going out to those events and getting yourself, quite frankly, getting shitty, and then showing up the next morning, dragging ass, and you can't find your. You're not doing yourself. Not only are you not doing yourself any good, you are damaging your brand. You don't want to be that guy.
Killing your brain.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Absolutely. And there's no excuse for it. There's just no excuse for that. You're not there on vacation. No. I know we always have ICAST in Orlando. It's going to be there through 2020. And of course, historically, Las Vegas has hosted a lot of them. But those are more designed because the giant convention centers are there, because people want to go there, because people want to take families there. They're not there for people to go crazy and be just a shell of themselves by the final day.
I'll tell you, 8 hours on the booth floor with a massive hangover is not a pleasant experience, and you're not going to sell a damn thing. What are you working half days, Nickel? And look, this is your business. If you don't care enough about it to watch what you do, watch what you drink, watch what you look like, watch what it looks like, then maybe you're not as passionate about this business or this product as you thought you were.
And that goes for the team that you're bringing with you. Hey guys, we're going to kill it. We got a lot of work to do. We're going to celebrate when it's all said and done, but you're here for business, and you need to maintain that professionalism from the start of the show till we are done.
And I realize we're talking to manufacturers primarily here, but this extends to retailers. It extends to pro staffers.
Everybody.
It extends to media. Everybody needs to be, presentable at ICAST, because this is where the industry gathers to do business. And if we can't put our best foot forward here, we have a world of trouble.
Right.
That's a big deal to me, is that we are presenting our best selves there. One of the things we talked a little bit about the displays, I think having a display at ICAST where people can have a real hands-on experience with your product, that's great. How many times we walked up and we see the giant wall of new baits, and they're all kind of Velcroed onto the wall, but you can't necessarily touch one of them. If you touch one of them, the guy's got to reach up and he says, well, I guess I can take this out of the package. Bob, can I take this out of the package? Come on. Take it out of the package. I want to see what it does. And but I get that every year, and I'm sure I'll get that in 2017.
Yeah, they put it under a plastic plexiglass box. This is the only one I got. Don't touch it.
Oh.
All the lasers pointing at it. Don't cross the beam.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that's the only one we have.
Yeah.
Really? Really? You mean that somebody could come up here, glance around furtively to either side, grab it, and you're out of business?
It's true.
Listen. There is this. This is a real issue, though, for a lot of guys, especially smaller companies who are showing up to ICAST. They're deep through their prototype and product development phase, and they're waiting for that manufacturing run. They may or may not have even made that manufacturing order. They may be banking on orders to come from ICAST to to pay for that manufacturing run? Or
And I acknowledge that.
Ready to be there?
Well, yeah, they are ready to be there because the alternative is to wait a year.
Yeah.
And some of them are more ready than others. But just because you don't have the finished product ready doesn't mean you can't have some really nice looking prototypes or models or something like that. I have picked up many a reel at iCast that I turn the handle and I realize there is not a single gear inside this reel. I have topwater baits that would sink like lead. I have picked up products that I know were not the finished thing, but they gave me an idea of what the finished thing is going to be like. And I think that's important. If you pick up a reel and the handle doesn't even turn, at least the guy can say, man, that thing's going to be smooth when we make it. And that's fine. That's fine. But give me something to look at because I'm a visual guy who needs that help. I don't want you to just tell me it's going to be the greatest topwater lure of all time. I want to see something. And and to Keith's point, these guys, and it's not just the small guys or the new guys, it's some of the big companies too. They don't know if they're going to make this product yet. Unless they get significant orders, this thing may never, ever go to the manufacturing plant. And iCast is a test run for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And to the little guys coming in for the first show, a little tangent here, just real quick. Not everybody's going to pay you with a credit card. You're billing in arrears, folks. So if you're counting on cash flow out of iCast to make your product happen, you need to rethink that before you come to iCast. You really need to understand how you're going to get your product to market. And I don't want to take us off a path, but I felt the need to reiterate that or talk about that.
Oh, that's a great point, Brad. And orders are going to range from, I saw a guy once retailer walk in and order 2 spin casting reels. That was his order. And you got to show that guy the same respect and perhaps even the same amount of time as the guy who wants to order 500 of something because you never know. You can't always tell by looking at a guy if he's going to big order next time.
No, chances are that guy who's ordering two reels really just wants to sample them and try them out and maybe share them with some of his pro staff or his influencers that he confides in to find out if they're going to meet expectations, and then he's going to make the order. So you never know what's coming after that initial deal. And
by the way, the big box guys, when they come walking in your door in your trade show booth, and you got to look salivating about the 50,000 units you're going to sell because they're excited about your product, they don't normally buy that way anymore, folks. They're buying 2 or 3 units just in time because they're going to connect you to their ADI system, and they're not going to have to buy as much as you would thinking they were going to have to buy, even though they have 500 stores. So just all of that in mind to say, coming out of iCast, you may not write those orders until after or long after iCast, and you're not going to be rolling in cash flow from iCast. So think about that from your business perspective coming out of it.
And I think another, just kind of speaking to that, everybody's kind of first instinct is to go to the show and how big of an order can I write, right? And when you are getting orders, you kind of have a tendency to try and upsell and get a bigger order. You're not necessarily, especially with a new product, say you're going to get into a store for the first time, you're not necessarily trying to sell them on volume as you are on SKUs. You want to get as many pegs as you can because real estate is limited. And whether it's Joe's Tackle Shop down the street or it's Bass Pro Shops or it's Walmart, peg space is limited. It's a limited amount of real estate. So if yours is coming in, somebody else's who isn't a great seller is going out. So be prepared.
That's right.
You want to get as much of that real estate as you can. So don't be upset when they only buy 5 units per SKU, but you want to sell them on as many SKUs as you can so that you can get in the store, get that real estate. You have a bigger footprint. You got a better chance of selling product. And if it does sell for them, then the follow-up orders are going to come and you're going to get bigger orders or just a regular rotation of small orders. Who cares? As long as it's still cycling, just keep them cycling.
Really savvy tip. It seems like more and more we hear about big tackle companies buying up smaller tackle companies. And sometimes I'll have people ask me, well, why do you think they bought that little tackle company? I'll say, well, that little tackle company has 5 pegs at Walmart or this other big box. And that's what they really bought. And that's why this company was worth quite a lot of money.
That's a great point, Ken. That's phenomenal. That's a great way to think about it. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Where are we on the manifesto?
Oh, guys, we're moving along. I promise. I've jumped ahead to a few, but let me.
No, it's good stuff, Ken. You don't have to keep it going.
One of the things, that you guys see and I see all the time at ICAST is you walk into a booth, you talk to somebody, and they sometimes want to hand you something. Maybe it's a flash drive. Hopefully it's a flash drive. I can throw that in my pocket. That's easy and that's nice. But a lot of times they want to hand me a brochure or a catalog or something like that. And what they don't realize is that I'm accepting it and I'm saying, hey, thank you. What I'm really looking for is the next trash can I can drop this thing into.
It's not on their aisle.
That is not on their aisle. And I'm being a little bit harsh, but
Nah, you're right though.
No, you can't carry that around all day, right? And if you collect those everywhere you go, it's not like when you go to a consumer show and you're grabbing all the stuff you can, and it's a different beast, man. You're there to work, and especially a journalist, right? They can't carry all this stuff. Thumb drive, flash drive. You can tell the story of your entire company and then some. If you can't do it in a gigabyte, you're in trouble.
You really are. And, it's not just that I may not want to carry the thing around all day, although that is a big issue. The other thing is, okay, now I've got your catalog or this other sheaf of paper. I can't get a high-res image if I want to put something in there. I can't cut and paste something.
Yeah, you're going to transcribe it?
I'm not going to. I've done it too many times, Brad, too many times. But I don't want to do it that way.
Right.
I want it in a way that's going to make my job easier. Because, hey, it's true for all of us. We like the people who make our job easier, and we're not necessarily happy with the ones who make things tougher.
Yeah. Right. And in future engagements, right? When you have a relationship with somebody who is buttoned up and they're giving you what you need on a flash drive and it's the right materials, you're looking forward to the next engagement of what they're going to give you. They're going to go, hey, I know there's some great content in here that's going to be valuable to me and valuable to my readers. When it's the opposite of that, you're not even going to open the email, right?
Yep. Yeah, and folks, when you're setting up your flash drive, make it easy for me to understand. Yeah. Label all the photographs. LMZ9764329.jpg is not an adequate file name. Yeah. I don't know what's on there. I'm not going to look through until I find, the whatchamacallit wingdinger. If it's not labeled properly, I'm going to yank it out of my computer and hurl it across my office at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, and you may not get the story you could have had because you made it difficult to get to the materials that the writer needed.
All about making things easy. All about making things easy. And here's this is maybe my biggest point, and it's sort of an all-encompassing part of the manifesto here. When you're at ICAST, you need to listen and learn. ICAST, and this is true if you're media, this is true, but this is particularly true if you're manufacturing. ICAST is not about you. ICAST is not about you. We're gathering there so you can exhibit, so you can display, so you can show what new stuff you have. But ultimately, it's an opportunity for you to talk with buyers and media. Make it about them. If you make it about them, you're going to have a fabulous ICAST experience.
That's right.
If you don't, you're gonna be wondering what happened and how can I do this better next year. But you got to make it about the other guy if you really want to make it work. You got to connect with people when they come in your booth. Maybe the first thing you say doesn't have to be, "Hey, let me show you the new this." Maybe the first thing you need to do is introduce yourself, find out who they are, find out where they're coming from, what they want, and then make your pitch and adapt it for them. Are they media? Are they buyer? That sort of thing.
Yeah, don't be hanging out the same pitch over and over again by rote. That's just sales 101, and certainly a lot of people aren't trained in that, but that's a fantastic point. Tailor your messaging, tailor what you're doing to your audience, but even better out of what you just said is ask people about themselves. We as humans there's nothing we like better than talking about ourselves. Just ask Keith. We
Yes, Brad loves talking about himself.
So the point is that when you ask people to talk about themselves, they're more likely to like you and buy from you because they feel good about you doing that. They don't know that. They don't understand why that's happening on a conscious level. It just happens subconsciously. And if you are, and then you can pattern what you're pitching to what their needs are, what their benefits are, who they are, where is their tackle shop located, who are their customers, what do they buy, how often do they come in their store. Those are all questions. What's the story behind their store, right? That's all stuff you can use as you're talking through your pitch about their customers and about them, right? And that's important. That's great tip. Great
right.
tip.
And learning about them so that you can serve them better. For example, if you have a tackle shop owner come in and you start learning about his shop and what methods he uses, is he just a brick and mortar shop, or does he have a great website component? Would he, if he does, chances are he'd love to have your videos that you have on your flash drive for your media folks. Give him one of those and say, listen, man, we're going to supply you with content that's going to help you out. Find out what his customers are targeting. If he's a saltwater shop, you're selling fishing line, he probably doesn't care that you have a great 6-pound test finesse line, but he's really interested in your 80-pound braid. So cater to learn about them, cater to their needs, and it's going to serve you well.
It really is. And connect with these people and get their information, get their email address, get their phone number, make some notes when they leave, get their business card, because you're going to want to follow up with them. If they're worth taking up this kind of time with, you got to follow up. And that's a huge one that I don't see people do often enough.
No, that's a gold medal winner right there. That's just critical sales stuff.
We discussed that in the strategies episode and the planning episode, and the little badge reader that you can get from the show. It's a couple $100, but man, it is such a great, useful tool because everybody's going to a database. You have it, you download it, and everybody's there. You don't have to miss a one. Boom, zap them. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah. You mentioned the badge reader you can get from ASA and so forth. ASA has a new trade show director, Blake Swango. He replaced Ken Andres, who left last year after quite a few years as the guy who was in charge of ICAST. And Blake's new. This is going to be his first ICAST. If you're an exhibitor there, find Blake. Talk to Blake. Get to know Blake. Become Blake's best friend. That's going to help you.
Yeah.
If you start hanging with the people who put on the show, if you develop a relationship with ASA, that can only help you.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not a tip on my manifesto, but it probably should be.
That's a good one.
Now it's 24 points.
I know. Well, that's another hour we're going to have to go, guys. Sorry.
That's all right.
But that is a big one, and I think Brad mentioned this one earlier, find strategic partners. There are people on the show floor, maybe they're not in your product category, but they're people people you trust, people you can send. If you got a buddy who's all the way on the other side and he makes something that you don't make and you're talking to a media person, hey, you might want to check out my friend over at booth number such and such and such and such. He's got a cool new this. Reciprocate. Get some people moving. Get the flowing. That stuff is huge. I don't want to go on that because Brad already covered that one really well. If you've got some key people you need to meet, maybe it's a key media person, maybe it's a key buyer or something like that, do something really special for them. This only comes along once a year. Find a way to set up an appointment with them, obviously, but also do things like take them to dinner. Strike King takes about 200 media people to dinner every year at ICAST. You don't think that makes an impression on folks? It absolutely does. It's not McDonald's either. These are really nice steakhouses. The Strike King takes people to dinner. Maybe you can pay for a hotel. Maybe you can pay some airfare. I don't know what it is. It's going to depend on your budget and how important these people are to you. But there are things you can do for people. Offer to take them to dinner. I used to judge my ICAST experience when I worked for BASS by how many job offers I got and how many times I was invited to dinner. If I had to eat dinner at home or on my own, I knew something was horribly, horribly wrong.
That's great. That is great. And know something about them. Look, if you're talking to a media person or you're talking like the questions we said, ask about people in the booth. If you know you want to target media people, read their content. look how they write. Look at what they've been writing about. Find an article you really liked or a video you really liked and point it out to them and say, that was great. Did you think about X? Give them things that feed the ego and give them things that will help them in their job. The more you do, the more likely they are to reciprocate with coverage.
Absolutely. Truer words never spoken in that one. Here's one of my, I fall into this trap a lot. I wonder about you guys. I wonder if you fall into it too. I tend to go to ICAST or some other big events in our industry, and I become like my own little island. And at the end of the day, maybe I've gone to breakfast with somebody, I've been on the show floor all day, I've gone to a business dinner. I fall into bed at night and the alarm clock rings way too early and I do it all over again. That's a mistake. You cannot afford to be an island at this event. You got to find time, make time to check out what's going on. Talk with some key people you trust. Go on some websites like fishingtackleretailer.com, asafishing.org. Find out what's happening at the show floor that maybe you didn't hear about because it's going to impact how you handle your next day. Check out the websites that are in your industry. You know, if you're making a bass product, maybe you want to check out bassmaster.com. But find out what's going on the show floor that you otherwise might have missed. This can make a critical difference for you, and you might have an opportunity to zig when everybody else is zagging.
That's great.
Make it pay off.
And if you don't already have the relationships in place, by doing just what you just said, right? You go on to bassmaster.com, you go on to ftr.com, you see who's writing the articles, doing some of the coverage. You now know who that person is. And the beauty of ICAST is you can read a name off a badge and go, oh, hey, there's Ken Duke. Oh, hey, there's Joe Sills. Hey, there's Mike Suchan. You listen. Hey, Mike, read your article last night. Great stuff. Have you seen? Boom. And it works.
Figure out how you can tie into a trend too. Something big's happening in the industry. Something's a craze. Something's popular. Find out how you can tie your product to that, because reporters aren't going to write just one line on the story, right? They want multiple sources, multiple angles, multiple people talking about it. And so you may not be the focus of the article, but you might be quoted in the article. So don't always think it has to be just about you.
Brad, you're a genius. You've tied into my next point in the manifesto.
And I haven't even seen it yet. It's amazing.
We already knew Brad was a genius, but now we know.
Keith, are you hearing all this?
No, he broke up on that.
We are recording, right? I'm putting a marker every time he says the word genius and my name. So we'll have it on track.
Keith, I was pointing out the obvious.
That's going to be my ringtone.
I was just pointing out the obvious, which I usually hate to do, but Brad is a genius. He led me right into my next manifesto point, which is to be media friendly. Be media friendly. Understand what they're looking for. Media is looking for a story. Media can be lazy. Have a story for them. Don't wait for them to come to you and find out what the story is. Have a story for them and have the people in your booth who can tell that story and have the pictures on that thumb drive that can support that story.
That's great.
Maybe you've got a great pro staffer who's got a fabulous new technique with your product. Well, that's what the media guy needs. And you just so happen to have a bunch of high-res images of the guy holding a big fish with a bait hanging out of its mouth. Man, you've just sold the story. And not one or two pictures, by the way, folks. We're talking dozens and dozens of pictures.
Right. Because every publication doesn't want to recycle the same stuff, right?
Good one. Good point.
So that they can choose what they want.
You got to have that. And so few people are truly media friendly in that sense. They think they're being media friendly when they answer questions and they don't kick the media person out of the booth at the end of a pitchfork. No, you can do better than that. You can have a story and you can have a plan for getting that story out there. And thank you, Brad, for leading me into that one. That was genius on your part.
Cha-ching. Where do you have my address for the invoice?
No, but it really that's just a critical one. And no, how many people do that? In my experience, 0 people do that.
Wow.
0. But it's so easy. It's the low-hanging fruit.
That's great.
Have your guy there ready to shoot video. That's some help, but that's not as good as it could be by any means. A lot of people are leading into ICAST here, and the ASA does a great job at ICAST that is so underappreciated, and that is with their business development seminars. A lot of people who attend ICAST don't even know that just off the show floor, in those other rooms in the convention center, there are business seminars going on that are free. And they have some terrific speakers at some of them. One guy I'm familiar with this year, his name is Jay Baer, and he is a customer service and marketing guru. He's written a couple of fantastic books that I've read. Yep. One is called Utility, which is a wonderful book that anybody can take and learn from. Another is called Hug Your Haters. And it takes customer service to a whole new level, which I think is really important in 2017. So Jay Baer is not only going to be speaking at the State of the Industry Breakfast on Wednesday, but he's also going to be doing a business seminar. I know it takes time away from the floor. I know that is precious time, but at least take a look at the list of these business seminars and see if there's something out there that can help you. They're usually an hour long. If you can break away and do one, you can help yourself a lot.
And by the way, all of the buyers and tackle shop owners are going to be there. So yeah, they're not on the show floor looking at your product, but they're sitting there talking about marketing and social media strategies and sales strategies.
And you will hear people ask questions and express the concerns that they have for their own business, which now gives you an angle and an icebreaker for a conversation with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sure does. It sure does. And this ties into another nice, I hope is a good point here for the manifesto. And that is because ICAST is such a tight event, it begins with Super Tuesday with On the Water and the ICAST Cup and so forth, the new product showcase, product reception presented by FTR. And then it leads into the show on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You've got to find a way, with things being so tight, with 15,000 people all competing for a few minutes of everyone's time, you got to find a way to extend those hours. One way is to invite your key people to breakfast, invite them to dinner, see if you can take them to lunch on the show floor. Stay, if you can afford it, and sometimes these places can be pricey, but they're usually nice. If you can afford to stay at one of the official ICAST hotels, the ones where ASA has gotten a good rate, stay there, because it means you're going to bump into people in the lobby. It means you're going to have more opportunities to see the key people that you need to see.
Great advice.
That's
anything
excellent.
you can do to extend the show, it's going to help you.
That's good stuff. And the breakfast, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that unless it's like inviting them to a conference room breakfast, right? But even just taking somebody to a breakfast in the hotel restaurant, gives you an opportunity to chat. That's great. That's really good.
It really makes a big difference. I've got a lunch appointment on Tuesday before the show starts. I mean, I'm trying to do everything I can to leverage the amount of time I have, because it zips by so fast. And another tip is we've all been on the show floor on Friday, and of course ICAST breaks up at about 2 p.m. technically on Friday. That's when all the exhibitors start to break down. Well, Friday's a ghost town at ICAST. Right. A lot of the key people you want to meet are already on the plane. A lot of the business that could get done can't get done because people are gone, and that's such a mistake. Don't leave early. Don't leave early if you're an exhibitor. Don't leave early if you're a retailer. Don't leave early if you're media. A lot of great business can get done on Friday, and I hate seeing that place.
But it actually becomes easier because the crowd has thinned out.
That's right.
And people are easier to access, and some of them are, quite honestly, a little desperate for some business. It's a good opportunity to get in there and maximize the time.
And by the way, some of the biggest chain buyers are on Friday there looking around because they know it's a ghost town, and because they are so in demand, they haven't been able to get to everything they wanted. And if you're breaking down your booth while they're wandering around, or you're not there, guess what? You've just missed your golden opportunity.
In fact, I can tell you from experience. Last year at ICAST, Ken, there was a buyer from a very large distributor, all over North America distributor. And I had tried to connect with him weeks before ICAST, and we kept, for whatever reason, we kept missing each other. But had an exchange, left voicemails, whatever, but never actually had a chance to speak with him in person before the show. It was the last day of the show. It was the final half hour of the show, maybe. I mean, like, to the point where the place was dead. People were already starting to break down. I was running a sample package over to a colleague who wanted to sample some product. And someone from the booth chased me down and said, so-and-so is looking for you in the booth. Biggest buyer from the biggest distributor. Last day of the show, there was nobody around, and he's standing there looking for me. Dude, kidding me? Yep. Guess what? That put product in hundreds of stores across the country. Yep. Just like that.
That's right.
Friday is so underrated, so underutilized. And yeah, there are some great wins like the one Keith was just telling us about. But you know what? There are a lot more misses. And that's because so few people are hanging around. So don't let Keith be the only guy who wins on the last day of iCast.
Yeah, exactly. And make it your partner day, because you're going to see a lot of booth guys standing around doing nothing. Well, guess what? Now, how can you help each other? Who can help you with distribution, right? So,
yeah, there's still a lot of critical people out there on the floor. Unfortunately, a lot of folks had left. I hope that stops. You know, as iCast gets to be busier and busier and better attended event, I think Friday is going to be more robust. But until it is, take advantage of it and let that be one of your edges. Not enough people. What I find at iCast a lot is you're talking to guys. iCast is breaking down. It's late Thursday. It's Friday, and they're saying, "Oh man, I can't wait to get out of here. I'm exhausted. You going home? No, we're going to go on vacation for a week." Well, what a mistake that is. I understand you're in Central Florida. I understand we have every theme park in the world, but shouldn't you be back at your office on Monday so that you can start to take advantage and leverage some of the things that you did for the last week? Shouldn't you be following up with the critical contacts that you made? Shouldn't you be kind of striking while the iron is hot? I guarantee you that most of your buyers are not taking the week off. Independent retailers are back in the store.
That's right.
And the big buyers, they're back in the office too, because they've got reports to file. They've got stuff to do. Monday after iCast, you should be on the phone. You should be following up. And
that's right.
I think a lot of people are not.
No, that's a great tip, man. That is so many people hit that vacation because they're so exhausted from all the prep leading up to it. Just put it in your mind. You've got another week at least for follow-up. And, big number sales rule again, you've got to follow up fast with people. You will be forgotten.
And it's trade show season too. So a lot of buyers are going off to big shows within a week or so, right? So if you can, and then you start to kind of not be top of mind, they're confused with whether they saw you at this show or that show. You want to get in there, strike while the iron's hot.
And remind them who you are. They don't remember you. Joe's Gadgets, hey, it's Joe from the Gadget Company, is not going to help. This is Joe from the Gadget Company. If you remember, I showed you and demonstrated for you our patented blah, 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 blah. Here's a photo of it. Whatever you got to do. But when you're hitting 1,000 people in a week, you've got to remind people who you are.
Keith, that is such a great point Brad is making, that we all like to think we're so memorable. But, maybe we are, maybe we're not. We gotta get out there while people may still remember who we are. And Brad keeps making such fabulous points, Keith. I assume he's first on the program. Am I right?
Yeah.
You're getting me in so much trouble, man.
I mean, after my name, of course.
Of course.
Right. Top billing. Top billing. Yeah. I guess that's probably
I'm going to be paying for this. I don't do the editing.
We're winding down, guys. I'm down to my last 2 points, I promise.
Wow.
And this, we talked about extending iCast. We talked about working right through Friday. We talked about getting back in the office on Monday. This tip is simply measure it. Find a way to measure what you're doing at iCast so you can tell whether you succeeded or failed. When somebody tells me weeks or months later, yeah, I guess it went pretty well. Well, that means you didn't measure it. That means you don't have any real objective basis for figuring out if you were successful or not. And I think it's important to have something to go with. It seemed to work isn't good enough. You got to find a way to decide whether you want to continue the path you're taking or whether you need to find a different way to do things.
That's excellent. Set your goals and see if you got there. That's great. I love it.
And here's my last one, guys. And we already touched on it. It was probably Brad who made the point, because he seems all the really solid points here today. But you know, and that tip is, I can sum it up in 2 words. It's own it. Own it. If you didn't have a good show, if you didn't see the right people, if you didn't move enough product, if you didn't get enough media interested in what you're doing, know that the right people were there. They were there in big numbers. And if you did not have a good show, I know whose fault it was.
That's right. And then figure out why, right?
Figure out.
Learn the lessons.
Another great point by Brad. Another fabulous point by Brad. Figure out why, and then change it. Because, you know, it's bad enough to have a bad ICAST, but to have 2 bad ICASTs in a row for the same reasons, it's pretty much unforgivable.
You're supposed to fail. It's chaos running a new business, and you're going to screw it up. So learn from it.
Yeah, but don't accept it as this is how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, you know, we didn't kill it. We didn't crush it. I guess, I don't really get a lot out of that show. If you're not getting a lot out of the show, you're not doing it right.
That's right.
Ken, can you please send us the list so we can post this on the page? Of course, you'll get full credits as Ken's 23-point trade show manifesto. But I think it's great. People will be able to utilize that and reference those points.
Ken, can you give us a little bit about how best people can reach you and why they should reach you and how they should talk to you, whether it be FTR as an advertiser, FTR for media pitch, that kind of thing?
Well, I can tell you that they should address him as Sir Duke.
I wish. They should address me, in reasonably polite terms. They can call me the fat guy. They can call me the bald guy. But if you call me the fat guy, that's just pushing it.
Then you're done. Yeah. All right. Keith, I told you not to call him a fault bad guy in the intro.
Brad, my email address is ken@fishingtackleretailer.com. Of course, our website is fishingtackleretailer.com. I'm the managing editor of our magazine, and I'm happy to hear from anybody. If I can help somebody in this industry, I'm a big believer that a rising tide lifts all the boats, and we all benefit from that. If you want to talk about FTR advertising, I can put people in touch with someone on our sales staff who can take care of that. We think it's really effective. If you advertise in some of the consumer magazines, whether we're talking about Field and Stream or Outdoor Life or Bassmaster, you are reaching the end user, the angler, and you're going to sell to them, product or two here and there. When you advertise in FTR, you're reaching 95 to 99% of the retail outlets in America. If you walk into a tackle store today and ask them about FTR, they're going to be familiar with the magazine. They'll probably have one at the counter they can show you. But happy to talk to people about anything. If you think I could help you, give me a ring.
Ken's a great resource. We've relied on you heavily and appreciate all the guidance and advice and mentoring you've given us over time. And I know Keith feels the same way.
Ken, man, been a great conversation and really insightful as always. I know you have a book to get out, so we're going to let you go. But thanks again for joining us. If you would like to get in touch with Ken, you can do so at ken@fishingtackleretailer.com. Ken, you've also got a show you've kind of resurrected and bringing together really the legends of outdoor journalism together for the Bass Reporters. It's you and Steve Price and Louis Stout.
And Dan O'Sullivan.
And Dano.
Yeah. So it's kind of the legends and me, I think of it.
Where can we hear it?
Well, people can check it out at advancedangler.com or michianaoutdoorsnews.com. And those respectively are the websites of Dan O'Sullivan and Louis Stout. But it's a lot of fun. And we talk about anything going on in the world of bass fishing.
Awesome. Sounds great. Let's check that out. That's great.
That is an all-star lineup right there.
We hope so. And I really appreciate the plugs, guys. And I've really enjoyed the time to talk with you two. It's been a lot of fun.
Great. Right. Loved the manifesto, Ken. That was brilliant. Just good stuff.
You will find the manifesto. We'll have it published on the website at mark5strategies.com. Of course, we invite you to subscribe and share the Fish Biz podcast. You can find it on iTunes or wherever you download your favorite podcast. We have an audio version for you to listen to in the car. If you're sick of looking at us, you can watch the audio version. Of course, if you do subscribe to the video version, we actually supply some imagery that speaks to some of the points and topics that we're talking about throughout the show. So you're not just looking at our mugs throughout the entire podcast. Again, this has been a tremendous opportunity for us to get some insight from the masterful and wise Ken Duke as we get ready for the big one, ICAST, coming up here in Orlando. For Brad Nickel and Ken Duke, I'm Keith Allen. Thanks for joining us on Fish Biz, the Business of Fishing podcast. Make yourself memorable with a face tattoo, right?
There you go.
Remember me? I'm the guy with a tramp stamp on my cheek.
Manufacturers out there, this space is available.